Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hey there, everybody, it's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards, get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. It's time to take a first look at week number 9 with my man, Trevor Hillstrom. Hopefully, Jonny Danger joins us in a little bit. Trevor, we have been surprisingly pretty good on the first look. And then I don't know what happens to us from Wednesday until like Sunday. Some craziness comes over us and we don't go with our plays that we hit regularly.
Yeah, I had an epiphany to go with a lot of lineups with Tyreek Hill and Javonte. I thought I was going to make a lot of money when the game started because Chase scored a touchdown right away. Hill had 2 for 21 on the first drive. I'm like, oh, this is looking great. And then went right after that. But I still did pretty decent. I mean, I didn't get crushed, but it could have been really good.
Do you know what my great play was of the weekend? I faded Javonte. I played Jaleel McLaughlin. Whatever happened to the number 2 running backs against Carolina theory? People forgot that one week.
Yeah, that was easy to do because Javonte was so low priced, and on FanDuel he was extremely cheap, so it really gathered attention. But I hit on a few other plays. My Rudolph play did pretty good. I mean, almost 22 fantasy points at 4,400 was really good. Only problem with that is it made me spend up too much on AJ Brown and Chase and those guys. The week that the big guys don't come through would be that week when I had the quarterback nailed.
Here's the problem with Philadelphia. They don't throw enough.
Oh, no.
They don't. They run, and Jalen Hurts steals all the touchdowns. So unless A.J. Brown or Devonta Smith make big plays, they don't get enough targets. So I would almost say unless A.J.'s in the greatest spot, and I think they are this week. I do. I think they're in a great spot. I just don't know if I can go back there because unless you're getting 40-yard touchdowns, and how many is A.J. Brown going to get?
Right. There's other plays in that game that'll probably be more just like Saquon Barkley.
Right. But that's at least a safer play because you know that Saquon's going to get the ball. And when they're in the 10-yard line, they never throw it when they're in the 10-yard line. It's frustrating.
Well, what was really frustrating about Philadelphia, too, they were down 10-3 for like a long time in that first half, and there wasn't that much time. And they still kept running the football. And I think I texted them, like, will they throw the damn ball?
No, and Miami, you're right. Tua started out really well, and then all of a sudden you could see that game slipping away. The Cardinals were hanging around. Miami's defense is completely overrated. Overrated. Yeah. So, all right, let's take a first look, Trevor. Let's focus on this week. So let's get to quarterbacks here. You got Lamar, you got Hurts, you got Allen, you got Jaden Daniels against the Giants. Are you spending up this week, or do you want to be cheaper?
For the most part, I think I want to be cheaper. I just think we can fill in those bigger players. I know I mentioned the bigger players, the higher priced players didn't really do as well last week, but that was an anomaly. They're going to come through. You're going to want to pay for them, the higher priced players, if you can find some good matchups for those lower priced quarterbacks. Lower priced quarterbacks won the slate last week.
What about Dak Prescott and Kirk Cousins? That game feels like it could be the had-to-have-it game.
I like the Dak Prescott side because I think Atlanta needs to run the football. They want to keep Dallas off the field. Dallas run defense stinks. But Dak should be in a good spot here. I like all weapons here, receiving weapons here for the Cowboys.
I do too. I think Dak feels like a really good play.
He's underpriced.
He's very well priced. Let me ask you about Bo Nix against Baltimore, who we just saw how bad Baltimore's defense is. But Bo Nix doesn't throw a lot. Can you get behind him?
I'm going to fade him this week. I think a lot of people will be on Nix. Let's face it, Denver's played a really easy schedule. I mean, they're pounding some weak teams. Now, I get Baltimore is not a great pass defense, but I think they're going to, rally around the troops here and be okay this week.
All right, let's go. I want to go to some guys on the bottom here because I think there's value. Jameis Winston at 54, Justin Herbert at 53, Daniel Jones at 52, Gardner Minshew at 45, all in good matchups. I mean, Gardner Minshew is going to Cincinnati. It's not like Cincinnati got this great defense.
Right.
Daniel Jones is playing Washington, and we know that you can throw on Washington. Are you willing to save a lot of money at quarterback?
I'm going to play a lot of Daniel Jones because I'm going to play a lot of Neighbors and Slayton. The reason Daniel Jones had 22 fantasy points against Washington last time out, and they only had the ball 20 minutes because they couldn't get their defense out the field. And they can somehow get the 29 to 30 minutes of ball control. He could get 25, 26 points. It's a good-looking matchup.
Danger, welcome aboard, my friend. We're talking about cheap quarterbacks.
Love it.
That game with Jameis Winston and Justin Herbert, did you see that Justin Herbert is cheaper than Sam Howell? And Sam Howell's not even starting.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Can't play him, though.
You can't.
I can't do it.
You can't play a cheap. Who's your cheap quarterback this week? Do you have one? Or are you paying up for Dak, or are you paying up for the big guys?
No, sir. I am back on Malik Willis. If he's playing, I'm in. Detroit can give up 20 points to a quarterback. Malik put up over 20 last time he played the whole game. I don't think you need to pair him up with anybody. Just let him roll. And I am all aboard the Bo Nix train over and over again.
Trevor just talked about fading Bo Nix, and I see both sides. Mm-hmm. I feel like, are we going back to the well with Bo Nix? But at the same time, Baltimore has gotten beat by every quarterback. Like, how? I mean, do I need a brick to fall on my head to know that it's a good play, Danger?
Look, Doc, your boys on Friday night talk about this every week almost, right? Baltimore has a perception that they are this top-tier defense. The common folk put a lot of money on Baltimore's defense, right? And I'm looking at my early projections right now, Doc. I got Bo Nix at 1.9% owned.
My only problem with Nix is I don't like the weapons there. Yeah, it looks good against certain teams, but I just don't like his weapons. I think Baltimore can match up with their weapons in this one.
Outside of my big win this year, most of my money's been on naked quarterback.
Let me ask about a game we haven't talked about. Seattle and the Rams. That game could percolate as well. Two teams that like to run, Trevor, but at the same time, they've got good receivers and two suspect defenses.
Yeah, well, you got to look at Kyron Williams first and foremost. Kenneth Walker, who was like, he should be in a good spot. But so are those receivers. I mean, this could be the game. You might want him. If you're playing multiple lineups, you play the running backs in one lineup, and then you come back with the receivers in other lineups because somebody's going to pop here. You got Kupp, Nakua, and Kyron. One of those guys is going to pop. So that's why I like playing multiple lineups so I can diversify. But if you're playing one lineup, I'm going to go to Kyron or Kupp. Well, Kyron or Kupp. Yeah.
Well,
it's hard
before I leave
to
quarterbacks. If I'm going to play one, I have $100. I say this to Willie and Odell every week.
Yeah.
How am I not playing Jalen Hurts, Danger?
Yeah, I mean, he went back to vulturing quarterbacks or running back touchdowns last week, right? Barkley's been a stud. I faded that entire offense except for Barkley last week, and I got burned by the Jalen Hurts touchdowns.
The first quarterback I mentioned last week was Hurts, and I didn't play the guy.
You did. You
right?
mentioned it.
I tell you what, though, Doc, I'm just pulling up my stuff. Sorry I was late today. Life. But I have, before I even looked, I have Malik Willis as my number 5 projected scoring quarterback this week.
I love him.
You love him?
Yeah, because he's going to run for 60, 70 yards. I mean, I don't think there's any way around that. And Detroit,
all right, let's say he throws for 130.
He's throwing for more.
No, let's say he throws for 130. Just humor me.
Okay.
And let's say he throws for 1 touchdown. And let's say he gets 60 yards rushing with no rushing touchdown. Is that enough?
It probably is not enough. You probably need a little bit more. I think he's going to get more.
Is the Detroit defense that bad?
Green Bay schemes so well. They're so well schemed. They got guys running all over the place. Yeah, Detroit's not going to be able to cover all their guys. He'll get to 170 passing.
So if he gets to, let's say, 180, that's 9 points. He gets 1 touchdown, that's 13. He gets 60 yards rushing, right? We're at, We're in business.
19, 20
19.
points can win with this price point.
Yeah, and Doc, we go back to Rudolph last week, okay? That team got demolished by Detroit. Like, what was it, 52-14? Rudolph still put up 21 points.
Rudolph was good until halftime, and then
Somebody told me I was lighting money on fire last week.
Danger, is that you?
No, that was not me. I told you you'd light money on fire with Tua. I think I was a little right on that. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, let's get to running backs. All right, so we've got up top Henry, Barkley, Trevor mentioned Kyron, Alvin Kamara, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan, Walker, Cook, Dobbins. There's a lot of expensive guys, Danger. Feels like a week that we might want to play some of these guys.
I built a lineup while I was watching my kid flip around the gymnastics floor today, Doc, and it's Kamara, Bijan, and Kyron Williams all together.
But when you do that, you're not going to be alone. I can't imagine you're the only guy coming up with that lineup.
No, but, I mixed it in there with Malik Willis and throw a little Khalif Raymond in there, throw a little Coker in there, and I think I'm okay.
What do you think, Trevor? Do you want to have three big horses like that?
Well, if I can find the some wide receivers and tight ends that I like, I wouldn't mind playing a lineup or two with those running backs that I like them. But what about a Chan?
I was just going to say he's a must play. He's a must play.
He like last week. I said he can catch 4, 5, 6 passes. He's going to get a lot of volume running the football. He might not get the goal line work you want, but you really don't need that. And if he does score a touchdown, he's really going to be good. I like Pollard. I think is in a good spot, but he's it's always risky with that. But and then what does Madison project at? I mean, the Raiders are.
Be careful with him. They were talking about Zamir White getting more looks.
Oh boy.
By the way, Pollard is genius. And I'll tell you, Trevor and I were texting because we think Breece Hall should have had a great game last week. But Aaron Rodgers is all about Aaron Rodgers. They get near the 5-yard line, he's throwing it. I don't think Tennessee's throwing it. I think Tennessee would give the ball to Tony Pollard, which gives him some significant value.
Yeah, I like Pollard, and I actually have a Chan a little ahead of Williams. And I think last week I said the same thing. I said, look, a Chan is the focal point of that offense right now, and he was last week, and he's going to be again this week.
Are there any cheap running backs? Like, how is Devin Singletary back in play with Tyrone Tracy more than likely to miss? Because I think he's going to miss, Danger. Do you?
I'm keeping an eye on that. I've got him in every one of my dynasty leagues. I finally took him off a taxi squad last week and played him. Finally. And now he's hurt. So, but you can thank me for that. I pulled him off the taxi squad.
Most people after playing Monday night, after going into protocol, do not make it back to
They don't.
No.
So I don't expect him to play. So then Singletary is a play. I mean, yeah, without a doubt.
Well, and sadly, Singletary's still more expensive almost. I mean, he is more expensive. He's $6,100. Tracy's only $55.
Yeah, you really want to look at him on FanDuel.
Yeah, I can't play. I mean, I don't. Maybe I could play him if Tracy sits. But there's just a lot of other people I like.
Well, who's the cheap guy if you're gonna play top end players? Let's say you're not gonna pay down a quarterback and wide receiver, and you're paying up you want to pay up a wide receiver. Who are you going to pay down for a running back?
Well, the two guys that I'm looking at right now, I'm looking at Chase Brown against the Raiders. And am I crazy to think that Nick Chubb hasn't done anything yet?
Yeah. Nick Chubb doesn't rate totally well in the model, but I mean, was he 56, 5,700?
Something like that. Chase Brown does. Chase Brown needs to. I mean, and against the Raiders, he could just break one, and all of a sudden he's real deal.
Yeah, I like going back to the well with Javonte Williams, and everybody got a little bit burned by not putting up big numbers in Carolina.
Baltimore don't give up nothing to the running back.
Yeah, I think they're going to I think they're going to do a lot of dump offs.
Danger, I want to educate people out there. I want to talk about Sims for a second, okay?
Uh-huh.
We talk about Sims on our Discord show. You talk about him here. We talk about Sims. How much should we trust Sims over? I mean, Trevor's a super smart guy, knows the game inside and out. But then how do we know whether to listen to people, Sims, optimizers? Like, what do we do?
I think it's a good combination of all of them, Doc. I mean, I don't watch football. I watch recaps. I see the highlights. I read the box scores. I trust in Trevor. I trust in you. I listen to all you guys. I go into the simulators. I look and find when I see you recommend something, Doc, and you recommend something, Trevor, and I go in there and look and I see, oh yeah, all three of us. You like it. Simulator likes it. I like it. I use it more for here's my gut. Here's the guys I like. And then I go in here and I look and I see, okay, this guy looks like he's going to be 30% owned. Who else can put up those same amount of numbers? So it's really a pivot machine more than it is totally guiding what I'm doing.
Trevor, how do you use optimizers and simulators?
I just kind of like to look to see what they're matching what I'm thinking about, and sometimes I like using them for the value play. The value plays that they usually can find like that tight end that I can't a lot of times.
Right. That I feel that way sometimes. I feel occasionally though that I say to myself, I know this game, I watch this game, but why are the Sims saying this and I'm saying that? Right. And that bothers me because I'm like, these Sims, they're pretty smart computers. Can I beat IBM in chess? Well, maybe one time out of a million, but usually IBM is going to beat me. Right. So when I like a player, like, and Heat and I were both on Cedric Tillman a couple of weeks ago, not one Sim, not one anybody even thought about it.
And I poo-pooed it because it looked so bad in the model. I was like, there's 5 other guys at, 3,000 to 3,500 you could play. And Heat said, nah, trust me.
Right. And then what happens is, at least in my opinion, I sit there and I second guess myself going, maybe I don't need it. Maybe I'm wrong. Sasha would play it.
Yeah.
Sasha would make that play.
So, for me, Doc, what I've been doing this year, and we've talked a little bit about it, is really it's about being consistent. Don't change your game plan. Don't change your strategy week to week. Be positive in what you're doing, and if it's working for you, stick with it. Don't go off the wall. And that's what the simulator does for me. Is it grounds me. It makes sure I don't go off the wall. That's it.
All right, let's turn our attention to wide receivers. And I think Trevor raised a really interesting point. People tend to want to pay up for these running backs. And so the high-end wide receivers occasionally go less owned than they should. Trevor, Lamb, Jamar, Amon-Ra, Cooper Kupp, Neighbors you mentioned before. Are you going to have one of those guys, two of those guys? How do you envision your lineups going?
Well, I think Lamb and Neighbors are going to be in a lot of my lineups. Them are the two guys I like. And then, in lineups that I don't have them, I'm going to go to Tolbert and Slayton in a lot of those lineups because, one of those guys is going to pop. I'm trying, like last week I had a lot of A.J. Brown. Well, if I would have thought to myself, I did think to myself, play Devonta Smith in some of those lineups that don't have A.J. Brown, and you got a piece there. And Smith was pretty good last week. So that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm going with that. And if I'm playing FanDuel, I'm really focusing on Justin Jefferson and the Colts receivers.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that.
Do you think Flacco has a good week against the Vikings, Trevor?
Yeah, I do, because the Vikings pass rushes that hasn't been there of late. If they don't get to the passer, they're cooked. You seen it last week; they couldn't stop nothing. I realize it's Nakua, and they had 4 good receivers going out there, spread the Vikings out. But I don't think the Vikings can stop Pittman or Downs if Flacco has time.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Danger, CD Lamb showed you what he could do. Not like we needed to know. But man, he was good. He was epically good. But he's so expensive. I mean, it's crazy. What is he doing with him?
I really like that game. I mean, we've seen Atlanta get involved in a lot of big back and forth games. I dig it. I think, this is the point of the season. Dak gets really pissed off at all of his haters and starts throwing up a couple of good games. But you're right about paying up for wide receiver. I love paying up for wide receiver. The 40-point boom is really only possible from wide receivers. The issue is I have to start with my running back build because I have to see if there is that value. And this week, I don't really like the value. So I'm going to be kind of down on the high-end guys. But the number one leverage play of the week in my simulator deck, Malik Neighbors, which usually doesn't happen with the high-end guys. When the high-end guys hit the simulator's top leverage, you got to go with it.
I mean, I couldn't imagine not having a lineup with Neighbors. And Trevor, when you first came on, we were talking about Daniel Jones and Neighbors being a great starting point and then working from there. And look, I'm going to say something here. Caleb Williams was this close to getting all the accolades for winning that game. Caleb Williams stunk.
You're right.
He was bad last week.
Did you all see that video of the cornerback taunting the crowd and then them pointing to him saying the play has started, and then he's the guy that was supposed to cover the back deep guy?
Dude, he almost got DJ Moore killed multiple times. Now, Daniel Jones is not a great quarterback, but I think he can find Malik Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
Just need a little extra time.
I mean, until a few weeks ago, Neighbors was getting almost 30% of all targets for the team, and it leads the NFL in team targets. And he got kind of shut down last week, but I'm all in this week.
All right, Trevor, let me give you some more guys here. Drake London at 6,700. Chris Olave against Carolina at 6,100. What about those two guys?
Is Carr going to play?
I'm going to say yes.
If he's playing, I love Olave. If he's not, no.
If he is Alvin Kamara a fade, would you play Taysom Hill, for example, in FanDuel, Trevor?
I'm done with Taysom Hill. Done.
Forever.
Yeah, I don't even want to touch the guy. There's just too many better. The tight ends are just playing much better now. In the last few weeks, they're really improved. So I'm not going to take my chance on Hill. Done with him. Kamara, the optimizer we use, DFS Hero, they love him. They think he's going to be the top scoring.
I mean, it's going to spit that out against whoever's playing Carolina every week.
Right. So, if Carr's back, I like him. I like both guys.
Danger, yeah. What about Ladd McConkey? He had such a week, but they're playing Cleveland, who plays what? Man coverage. What does Ladd McConkey eat up for breakfast? Mm-hmm. Man coverage. Can we go back to Ladd McConkey?
I currently have him as wide receiver 18 on the week, which I think is pretty darn good for his salary.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm in.
Who are you in Danger? Price to salary relativity. Who are some of the best values that you have this week?
Well, I'm glad that you asked me that because I just clicked that button. So what I have here is I told you Malik Neighbors, right? Number one, which is super weird. This was last year. This optimizer crushed Christian McCaffrey week after week after week. They said, don't care if he's 40% owned. You play him. He pays off, and he did. This week it's Alvin Kamara, by the way, but that's because they're playing Carolina. But Malik Neighbors, it's right back at Cedric Tillman. This is saying people aren't going to play him again. I don't know why. Maybe it's wrong. Maybe by Sunday morning show these ownerships jump up. But it likes that a lot. It's giving really high ratings to Jalen Tolbert, the secondary wide receiver in Dallas. Really high ratings.
I love him.
And let's see, if you're looking for somebody in the 3,000s, it's got a ceiling of near 20 points for Ray McLeod for some reason. I think they think that Atlanta-Dallas game is going to blow up.
The DFS Hero Optimizer has McLeod way up there, too.
Yep.
Well, Ray is interesting because I'll tell you why. Because Dallas plays a ton of zone, and Ray feasts on cover 3, literally feasts on cover 3.
I'm just worried Atlanta's going to really run the football.
Yes, but I mean, you can't run it a million times.
But your friend Permar right there, he likes this McConkey kid.
He's right. Well, I mean, look, I like the guys that you mentioned. I think, Trevor, you had said, Lamb and London, but we could do a Tolbert McLeod and get a piece of that game. The problem is when you get a piece of a game, you leave yourself sometimes with nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't mind getting a piece of that game with a secondary receiver. I don't know if I'm playing both secondary receivers in the same game. Yeah.
Trevor, are there any cheap receivers? Do you like DK Metcalf? Do you like Tyler Lockett? Do you like Jacoby Myers? Xavier Legette, who's the now number one receiver there? Anybody that I'm missing there?
I do like Legette. I do like Tillman, but I like the more of your middle guys this week. A lot, like we mentioned, Olave. I'm just looking over my notes.
Trevor, can we play Ridley?
Not Mooney this week.
If he plays, can we play Ridley again?
I think you can. I think Ridley is playable, but I don't like the matchup. I mean, this really feels like. Look, so Playmaker Workbench said something, so let's address it. Tony Pollard dealing with a foot injury. Tajay Spears not healthy. You got who knows at quarterback, and Ridley is a mess. So I think you can play Ridley, but I'm not playing him.
What about Tyreek? He's still 7,300. I know the Bills got a good pass defense. But I don't think he's going to be owned that much this week, is he? Or is he going to be highly owned?
I love him. I love him this week.
I mean, I don't care about the matchup. I don't care if Buffalo's in the top 10 in pass defense. I mean, Hill's one of those guys you got to think about at some point every week.
Willie. So here are a couple of guys, Danger. Permar says Coker, and Heat says Parker Washington. Well, both guys, I think, are flyers. I mean, they're definitely flyers. Parker Washington has upside. Coker has upside, but what kind of roster would you have to have, Trevor? Can you only play one of those guys and hope to get lucky?
I would think you'd only want to play one. I don't think you want to play two. There's just too much risk involved. You're really hoping for too much to happen. Especially if you can find, if you're going to stack, if you're going to play a high-end quarterback, or you're going to pay up at a quarterback, pay up at running back, pay up at wide receiver, then you can hope you get lucky with two of those lower price guys and make a lineup that way. But you're putting a lot of hope into it. But if it hits, you're really going to hit.
Danger, will you play any of those guys, or are they just too risky for you?
I like going back to the well with Khalif Raymond. I mean, the guy's showing he can take a kick or a punt back to the house. He's kind of a de facto receiver too. I kind of like going back to the well there.
Did you see that play call on his touchdown last week? That may have been one of the greatest play calls I've ever seen. The scheme where he goes in and comes out, and he's literally walked in.
What do we think about the Lions this week? Anything as far as I kind of like Montgomery.
I love Montgomery.
I mean, Montgomery and Gibbs every week, they're banging, man.
Trevor, what did I text you last week? Almost everybody that told you that Vegas thought was going to scored. They had Montgomery, they had Gibbs, they had St. Brown, they had Jacobs. They called it. So Montgomery is a really good play. All right, let's get to tight end, guys. Brock Bowers leads it off at 6,000. Is he worth it, or do we want to just spend a few dollars less and try to say, because Brock Bowers has not scored, Danger. He's good, but he doesn't score.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, the early projections show him as one of the least owned guys on the slate. I think that's due just because of the high-priced, very nice value, not value, but very high-priced, high scoring potential of the wide receivers and running backs this week. So if you can pay up at tight end, you're going to be alone on that island. And then I like that idea. I just don't know where you find the rest of the value.
What about Ingram with all the guys out in Jacksonville?
Big fan of Ingram.
And then I like Ferguson because Atlanta got scorched by Otten last week, but they were missing linebacker and a safety. And now I want Anderson. I forget the safety's name. I'm going to look at the reports this week. But if those guys are out again this week, then I think Ferguson's a really good play.
Ferguson's a great play. I think Bowers, you know why Bowers to me is always playable? Because all he needs is one touchdown and he puts a slate away.
Right.
One touchdown, and if you don't have him, it's over. So if I'm doing 3 lineups, which that's how I want to play, I have to have him in one of my 3.
I got to see something here. He ranks so high in the leverage because I think everybody's going to pay up elsewhere. They won't be able to follow. Yep, I'm right. Number 1 on the entire slate. Running back, quarterback, tight end, wide receiver. Because they're projecting him at only 1.5% owned because people are going to take the high-priced running backs and wide receivers.
And the Raiders have a receiver we haven't mentioned that what I like is Jacoby Myers.
Mm-hmm. We did mention him. I like Jacoby Myers too against Cincinnati. It's a good play. Look, I'm going to go a little crazy on you. I think that Gardner Minshew at that price, if you put Minshew with Myers and Bowers, you could be onto something. Now, the problem is when I use those 3 guys, I'm not getting in other people that I want, but that is a cheap enough stack. What is that stack going to cost me? $16K for 3 guys? Puts me on pace for 200 points.
I think that would be the game if you take the Raiders and you have to come back with somebody from Cincinnati.
Right, and hope that it explodes, right?
Yeah, because if the Raiders are scoring, Cincinnati's going to have to do something to stay with it.
Do you think T. Higgins plays this week, Danger?
I don't know. The guy seems to always linger. But I think you can play your Vegas side and then just come back with Chase. I mean, I know it's expensive to put Chase in there, but I mean, I think Chase is going to go. I mean, this is saying 10% owned. I don't see it. I think there's so many other places people are going. I think
My
Chase
point is Mike
comes up lower.
Gesicki really the number 2 receiver there?
Yeah, probably. Probably. I mean, Yoshevich was awful. I mean, I saw his somebody put all 3 of his targets in a quick little thing, and he just it looked like he was running 60% speed.
Trevor, let me give you a guy who's it feels nasty. Jonnu Smith. Is Jonnu Smith in play?
Always in play.
Yeah, you beat me to it.
Yeah, he's got slate breaking numbers. He won the slate 2 weeks ago. I mean, he gets targeted, but that wasn't with Tua though. Is Tua going to go to him? Tua's going to look for Tyreek first, and then a Chan. But yeah, you got to like Jonnu.
I like Jonnu. I like Henry. I like Fant even this week. I think all those guys at the high 3,000s are solid targets.
I think they are too. So we're getting people here. He mentions Adam Thielen. Permar mentions Gesicki, who I had said, right? And then, he's saying the Bills are strong against linebackers, but Jonnu just seems to get involved. But what about Noah Fant? Let's talk about Noah Fant against the Rams, who have just been really bad on defense.
Yeah, the Vikings. If the Vikings would have had a tight end, they could have scorched the Rams. Their linebackers are slow. Unfortunately, the Vikings are slower as far as their tight ends. But if they would have had a healthy Hawkinson, they would have won that game last week.
I think Noah Fant is a really great play this week. I think he's a really great play.
Sneaky. He paid less than 5% owned, 3% owned.
Yeah. All right, Danger. Give me the tipsy pick right now that you're thinking about. Who's the lock and who's the tipsy pick?
All right. I think that I'm lacking H-Shannon. I think he's my guy. I think he's my lock. I think people are going to want to pay up even more than him, and I think he can break the slate. My tipsy pick, it's going to be either Coker or Khalif Raymond. I like both those situations at 36 and 3,900.
Is it Trust in Trevor or is it Sasha Says? What is it?
It could be either one tonight, but you stole my HN, so Neighbors is going to be my lock play as far as that goes. He's going to dominate my lineups. I don't know how tipsy a pick this is, but Turpin for Dallas.
It's another situation like Raymond. He does the kickbacks. He gets a couple of deep passes.
Yeah. Why Turpin? You mentioned Tolbert. You mentioned Turpin. Now you mentioned Turpin.
That's why I meant Tolbert, not Turpin. Tolbert.
Oh, I was like, what are you talking about?
Tolbert.
I kind of like Turpin now. I got to look him up.
All right. I'm going to take the bait, and I'm going to take Brock Bowers at 6K. If nobody wants to do it, I'll do it. And if Brock finds the end zone, then I'm going to be at about 22 points. I'm going to be ahead of the competition. I kind of like Lad McConkey. I like it.
Fails here.
What's that?
Oh, I think my internet was going a little slow here.
Yeah, but I do like the whole Daniel Jones Neighbors thing. That's really interesting to me as well. Now, Danger, before we get out of here, can I do a Jones Singletary Neighbors stack, or is that too many Giants? Is that disgusting?
I mean, Washington likes to give up a lot of points, so I can't hate it, but I don't love it.
What's the disgusting stack of the week?
I mean, I think you named it already. It's playing the Las Vegas Raiders in a stack.
Exactly.
Was I right? Was that the disgusting stack of the week? Yeah.
That could work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Colts on FanDuel. Get your Colts and Vikings in on FanDuel.
Oh, so if we want to play the late night hammer game, how are you playing that one?
I'm going to play Addison. Addison's been squeaking. He's squeaking up here in Minneapolis area. He's not happy. He's been open. The problem with Darnold is he's holding on to the ball too long. What now we're noticing, these new matchups. He's been, the strategy. They got him figured out a little bit. He needs guys to be a little bit more open than most quarterbacks. If Jefferson's not open right away and he can't drop it off to Jones, he's holding that ball too long. KOC told him, a close-up told him to throw the ball. So he's just holding on to it way too long. Addison's being the squeaky wheel. I like Addison.
What about TJ Hawkinson against the Colts, who are terrible against tight ends?
Yeah, Hawkinson's in full, but they're skeptical on how much time he's actually going to be on the field this week. But if he is a total full goal, then you have to like him.
Do you like Pittman or Downs?
I like them both, but I think I have to go with Downs more because I just think he's just been the deeper play.
It's funny that Trevor said that, Danger, about Sam Darnold, because that has always been the criticism.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be wide open or he won't throw it. And all about the great quarterbacks throw with anticipation. Sam is like the Heinz ketchup. It's making me wait. What's up?
He is. I think, this is what is he, 26 years old, Doc? I mean, he's been in the league since he was 14. So but he's never really had the chance. I think the timing and the quick release come with just repetition. And if he could just stick with the team for a while, I think he could improve on that. But yeah, he's slow.
He is. It is a little slow.
Well, being a Viking fan, what's nice about that is they're not going to give him the big contract.
Oh, he's going to be gone next year. He's going to be playing for somebody else.
Look, is there no doubt that, the Vikings love J.J. McCarthy. They love him. Yeah. And he's got a gun. J.J.'s got a gun. You'll
find a different veteran to bring in for insurance.
Exactly.
But Sam deserves a starting job somewhere.
Agreed.
Yeah, but then somebody, what they going to ask for? $40 million? Forget it.
No. I want to be his agent.
I wouldn't be totally shocked to see him in Las Vegas next year.
So. That's the last thing they need.
Right.
That's a good point. All right. People out there, please check out Friday Night Lights. We do it around 9 p.m. on Friday with me and Willie Walls and Odell Blocker, the great Swami. On Saturday morning, of course, you want to listen to SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio for fantasy house calls and from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern. And Sunday, our Discord show, we have given out picks. Danger, we have been really, really hot in Discord.
Rocking.
Scorching.
Rocking. Burning the house down.
Please don't miss it. All right. For Trevor Hillstrom and Jonny Danger, I'm Dr. Roto. We tell you to be well and take care.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.